Is the media too obsessed with Caitlyn Clark? Over the weekend, Iowa played University of South Carolina for the NCAA Women's Championship game in basketball. And if you've been living under a rock, you know that Iowa is led by Caitlyn Clark, a senior guard who is now the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. She is third in assists. She's the all-time tournament leader in points. She beat Steph Curry's record for threes. There's lots of records that Caitlyn Clark has won. She's projected to be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft in a couple of months. Caitlyn has been really a star and a star of stars. The championship game that she just played in against USC, got 18.7 million views. 18.7 million views. That is a record. And the game that Caitlyn Clark played in against LSU 2 nights earlier, another record at the time, right? She has really drawn attention. Her team and her have drawn so much attention to women's basketball. There's no doubt about that. But they didn't win the championship. USC did. They are not the world champions or the national champions. You know, the South Carolina Gamecocks were undefeated. They brought a team back that had none of the starters. They literally brought in a whole new starting five. And let me just be very clear: the five weren't just seniors; they were professional players. They were all drafted. So Caitlyn Clark is a singular hero on Iowa, and USC has the story of the championship. They got the story of that woman on the left you're looking at right there, Dawn Staley, who is maybe the most decorated women's basketball player, certainly ever, with 3 U.S. gold medals. She's got 3 national championships as a coach. Her gold medals are as a player. She's been Naismith Player of the Year a couple times. She was the best high school player. I mean, her whole career, she's been nothing but a star. And it seems that almost all of our conversation has been about Caitlyn Clark. Even when USC won the championship, even when South Carolina, let me say South Carolina, even when South Carolina won the championship, University of South Carolina didn't get a headline that showed them on the CNN cover. It showed a picture of Caitlyn Clark where it said that the University of South Carolina Gamecocks defeat Caitlyn Clark or get revenge against Caitlyn Clark for last year. And so even in their championship, Caitlyn Clark's at the center, and even in their championship winning, Caitlyn Clark is on the headline. There is a very complicated conversation that we have to have about Caitlyn Clark. On the one hand, she is getting a level of attention that we just haven't seen for so many other women's basketball players who are also, we didn't see this for Maya Moore. We didn't see this for Cheryl Swoops back in the day. We didn't see it for Lisa Leslie back in the day. There are so many women's athletes who have been the best in the sport at a time, who never got, particularly Black women athletes I'm talking about, who have never gotten the level of attention that Caitlyn Clark is getting right now. People are tuning in for a reason. Now, let's be clear. Caitlyn Clark is a singularly talented player. She may be the most spectacular player. I'm not saying necessarily the best. Cheryl Miller's my best, but she is the most spectacular player that I've ever seen. Her ability to shoot, her ability to score, her ability to pass. She's third all time in assists. Is extraordinary. She just took a Iowa team that, in my mind, is average, maybe mediocre, but with her, they're elite, and took them to the brink of a national championship. She deserves a lot of credit. She is extraordinary. But we also have to acknowledge that the media loves a media narrative. The media industry, the media industrial complex loves a narrative when there is a white woman who has, or a white person, period, that has elite talent. Eminem is a wonderful rapper. Eminem is an extraordinary rapper. There's a case that, in terms of raw skill, Eminem is the most skilled rapper we've ever seen. I don't believe he is, but there's a case to be made for that. In the same way, there's a case to be made that Caitlyn Clark is the greatest college basketball player we've ever seen. You can have debates about whether it's Cheryl Miller. You can have debates about whether it's Cheryl Swoops. You can have debates about a few people, Tarasi. You can go down the list, but she's in the conversation. But when there's a white person, they act as if they invented the sport. The media loves it. Now, some of this is just a fish out of water story, right? Because there are narratives that basketball is dominated by black people. A white person doing it is just interesting, in the same way that a black person dominating golf was interesting. There is some of that isn't about white supremacy as much as it is, hey, we just like an interesting, different story. That makes sense to me. But there's also a way that when it comes to Caitlyn Clark, the media constructs narratives that, again, reflect a certain kind of sustained commitment to white supremacy. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, when they played LSU last year, and Louisiana State University, LSU ended up winning the national championship, led by Angel Reese. And when they played against them, the media immediately jumped to a narrative that was highly racialized, a narrative that framed the LSU girls, the black women, as a problem, that framed them as dirty debutantes. The LA Times called them, a columnist called them dirty debutantes. So they made the LSU team look like they were somehow villains, and they made Iowa look like heroes. So when you have that kind of framing, it's a problem. There was a "you can't see me" face made by Caitlyn Clark, who likes to talk trash. She talks less trash this year than last year, but last year, Caitlyn Clark was talking some trash, right? And they love when a white woman talks trash. Oh my God, she can get down and dirty with the best of them, right? That's the kind of stuff they say. They meaning the media. And look, I ain't mad at her talking trash. Larry Bird used to talk trash. Larry Bird was maybe the greatest trash talker in the history of sports. Larry Bird would be like, which one of you chump? He'd walk into the enemy's or the opponent's locker room and be like, which one of you fools is coming in second? When they would do the 3-point contest. He would talk shit and tell you which way on the court he was going to shoot. One night he said, I'm going to beat y'all left-handed, and did it. Larry Bird literally would say, I'm offended if you put a white guy on me. I'm offended if I see a white guy guarding me. I mean, Larry Bird was talking that shit. Barazita Brujita mentions Bill Lambert. Bill Lambert talked trash. He also was a physical player, right? He played the dirty style of basketball. But we often romanticize it from white players. But when Caitlyn Clark is matched, when her energy is matched by Angel Reese, and Angel Reese starts talking trash, when Angel Reese beats Caitlyn Clark, or her team beats Caitlyn Clark, and she's now talking the trash. She's clapping back. She's making gestures. She's got the smoke. Now, all of a sudden, people aren't, now it's not fun and games anymore, right? Now it's not fun and games anymore. Now, all of a sudden, there's a problem. Now, all of a sudden, this is about sportsmanship. Now, all of a sudden, they're dirty debutantes. Because right when LSU was winning the championship over Iowa, and Caitlyn points to the ring finger like, I got a ring, I won, you didn't. Now Caitlyn is a poor victim. Oh my God. Now Caitlyn is a victim of the dirty debutante, the bad girl. this is about how we read people. When Caitlyn does it, she's a gamer. When Caitlyn does it, oh, she's such a sport. When Angel Reese does it, oh my God, how dare she? She's bad for the sport. She's a villain. She's a dirty player. So there's a natural protection that white women are afforded that the black woman is not, that black girls are not, that black children are not, which we saw after LSU lost to them this year. And when Angel was crying at the press conference because she was asked about all the hell she's been through from being doxxed, being misrepresented, being smeared. When we see all of this, when we hear all of this, it's very easy to be sort of caught up in the moment and the narrative of these two people or these two teams. But this is a long-standing thing. When black people do a sport, we just say, oh, well, they're Negroes, they're good at it. It's natural. We don't even get credit for it fully because it's like, that's what y'all do. Y'all run, y'all jump. But remember when Jeremy Lin, the Taiwanese basketball player who had the Linsanity, in New York, a dozen years ago. I remember when he was at the height of his popularity, they would say stuff like, Jim, Jeremy Lin is such a brilliant guy. He went to Harvard. And, at halftime, he goes back into the locker room and watches the footage and checks out the angles and figures out how to make adjustments in the middle of the game. And I'm like, every basketball player in the NBA looks at tape at halftime. Every athlete in the NBA goes over game plans. Every athlete gets coaching and instruction and reassesses what they did in the first half. Y'all act like Jeremy Lin was back there just looking at game footage. And what you think the other guys was rolling dice, shooting dice? Like, they were all doing that. Every single one. But you had to make Jeremy Lin a model minority and this exceptional Asian, and you had to make the black folk, by comparison, at best, ordinary, or at worst, negligent in their professional duties. So this is how it plays out. And so, to the question of, is Angel Reese getting too much attention? The answer is yes. She's getting too much negative attention. To the question of, is Caitlyn Clark getting too much attention? Yes, she is. Now, I am a Caitlyn Clark stan. I love watching her play basketball. I love the way she plays basketball. I love the way she moves without the ball. I love the way she gets her teammates involved. It makes adjustments when defenses adjust, like she did against USC, even though they lost. I think she's going to be an even better pro than she was a college player in certain ways. I have no doubt that she's special. And I don't mind, not all her games being nationally televised. I don't mind all the Instagram and other social media focus on her because, look, she draws eyeballs. People care about her. But what makes her coverage excessive is not that. It's about the way she's covered. They're covering her as if she doesn't stand on the shoulders of a tradition of Black women and girls who open all these basketball doors. That her entry into the WNBA as the number one pick in the draft only happens because there were generations of players like Cheryl Miller who never got to play in a WNBA because it didn't exist yet, who didn't get to play in an ABL because it wasn't crafted yet. And those women struggled and built and fought to get some of these doors open. Now, some of those women were white too, but there were a lot of Black women and girls who did that. She is the number one pick in the draft, and she's probably the first number one pick in the draft that a lot of us know. But 7 of the last 10 WNBA drafts had a number one pick that was a Black woman that didn't get this attention, that won't get these NIL deals. And there's a problem with that because she's not the first one that was marketable. She's not the first one. I mean, Skylar Diggins was marketable. Skylar Diggins was beautiful. Skylar Diggins was gifted as an athlete, but she never got this kind of attention. Oh, we love Dawn Staley now, but where was this level of attention when Dawn Staley was a 5'6" point guard from North Philly that could do it all and did it all? She would have been great to celebrate. The Sue Birds and they get attention, but do they get the level of attention as their male counterparts? So some of this is not just about race; it's about just how women get treated in the WNBA. All of it should be up for a conversation now that we're paying attention to women's sports and specifically women's basketball. But at the end of the day, it's okay to love Caitlyn Clark. It's okay to be a fan of hers like I am, but it can't come at the expense of everybody else. It can't come at the expense of honest storytelling. It can't come at the expense of proper celebration of the other teams, especially the ones that win. I mean, there was so much Caitlyn Clark talk that you almost would have thought that USC didn't win. It can't come at the expense of them. Celebrate Caitlyn Clark, but celebrate the whole field, celebrate the whole tradition, and recognize that she is not the center of the world, even if she is maybe the best basketball player we've ever seen in women's sports, and maybe the best college basketball team, maybe the best college basketball player we've ever seen, period. I'm willing to have that conversation. We can have that conversation. But people only want to have GOAT talk sometimes when it's white people at play, right? People who never listen to hip hop want to have GOAT talk when it comes to Eminem. People who don't watch the NBA want to talk MVP status now when it's Luka Doncic the last couple of years who's been in the mix. They didn't give a damn about it before. And now people are talking about college sports, but they only want to talk about Caitlyn Clark. You got to ask yourself why. Why are you so interested when there's a white person at the middle? Why are we so uninterested when there's not? That says more about us than it does Caitlyn Clark.